Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aidan,
And I'm Jack.
and we are here to recap what wound up being the Cannons season finale.
Mm,
Um, they go down in the
say it ain't
quarterfinals.
so.
Yeah, the Carolina Chaos get the win 8-4 in I think what we all could agree was the Cannons' worst performance of the year. Honestly, like probably the worst performance of the last couple of years. I know obviously their semifinal loss to the Dogs was equally like well the score was far more lopsided, but this just felt, I mean, 4 goals, they had nothing. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, not what we envisioned. Obviously, it's not the result we saw when these teams played 2 weeks ago. Um, just a really really disappointing outing to finish the season.
yeah, I not really much to add there. It was just exactly the real bummer. I think it was such a great year, and we'll do a full season recap later. But there were so many weeks where I feel like they found a different way to win in so many ways, and I just kind of felt like the Cans always had a shot and that they would figure something out. And I never doubted that they could win any game this year going into it. Um, and yeah, I guess we'll save the rest of the. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of talking about
Yeah,
the season yet, but yeah, just this game, it just from the start, it just felt like there was nothing
yeah.
there. It
I mean, you
just
you you see in this game why Blaze Reardon has won goalie of the year. I think it's 4 of the 5 times. Um,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, I know Bernlohr won it once, but I think he's gotten every other time. Like he made some amazing saves, and I think once he gets in
Hmm.
that zone, he both gets extra locked in, and then I think it makes the shooters second guess and feel like they have to take the most perfect shot. Like, they have to hit
Right.
corner exactly. And especially like he really plays it hockey style. Like the Cannons, you're taught basically your whole life, like bounce shots, shoot low. Um, that just doesn't work on him at all. Like he just puts his whole body down there across the base of the goal, and it just didn't work. Like I still am not sure he should win goalie of the year just because he missed 2 full games, then came out early in 2 others. Um, but if he does win, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, you saw it. Yeah, for as much as we said that the Cannons really didn't have much going, and I think there were a lot of times where exactly that they were looking for the perfect shot rather than just shooting. But I think that when they did shoot, because there were times and opportunities where they did attack, especially or like I feel like
yeah,
second quarter and third quarter, they were attacking and got some good shots off. And just every time Blaze came up with a save, and it was just like ridiculous. They could not figure out how to get the ball past him.
yeah. And it's worth mentioning on the other side too. Colin Kirst, like 8 goals allowed, no 2 pointers in this game. Like
Great
you
game.
figure, yeah, you figure if you hold the other team to 8, you probably win. Um, and he
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, it was 4 goals in each half. So that little magic we've talked about didn't quite hold up. But again, I'll take 4 goals in each half. Um, I just, I think, yeah, it was shooters looking to find the perfect shot. And how many times did we see players like try to force feed the crease or a skip pass that got picked off or knocked down? Like
Yeah, I said
that
that
was the
to you
most
during
frustrating thing.
I said that to you during the game. The Whip Snakes had at least three or
Okay.
four just clean interceptions right off a pass.
Yeah.
It was insane just how active their sticks were and how they were just it's not even yeah, so yeah, Blaze is making all these saves, but and we're not taking as many shots as you would like, but we're also not even getting to the point of shooting sometimes because their defense is just smothering you.
Yeah, and the offense just didn't have a plan. I know I heard Coach Towers um later talk about how their plan was to take away Asher as a feeder, which obviously
Mm,
worked.
yep.
I wish he had gone to the rack more. I know he had the one goal late, but it really feels like, especially like Rowlett and Newman are like the only people who can try to stay with him physically. That
Yeah.
he has that, you know, it's very different from the Rob Pennell question mark, but his own version where he just pushes you like to not even 5-5, like 3-3, turns around and shoots, and it usually goes in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how he scored the fourth goal that ended like the 30-minute scoring
Yeah.
drought. And exactly, it was like, where was this all game? Like, why did we not
Yeah.
just try to let if you know, like you said, Towers, their plan was to shut down Asher as a passer. Okay, let's realize that they're doing that, and then just tell Ash to go straight to the rack. Screw the
Yeah.
offense.
And then,
Get the ball to
if
Axe and go.
yeah, and if he does that a couple times, like if that goal had happened in the first quarter or the second quarter, he does that a couple more times, then maybe they do have to start sending a slide and that opens it back up as a passer.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, I think it's tough now. And it's always going to be a disappointing loss when you're eliminated from the playoffs, but this year and last year, um, I think this team had really high expectations, like both the fans did and the team did for themselves. And they've ended in pretty brutal, disappointing losses. I would say this one, not quite as embarrassing, at least on the score differential, but just such a flat performance compared to what we know they're capable of.
And I would argue that it hurts even more this year because you had last year's and how good the team
Yeah.
was this year that you're thinking that they learned from that. And not to mention, it was at Gillette this time that the loss happened.
Yeah.
We had a great win at Gillette last year, and
Yeah.
then they put up the dud in the semis. And so to have that just tough performance in front of the home crowd was just an extra like wah wah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to talk about the crowd too, because I don't know the total numbers. Obviously, it's a much bigger capacity venue, but compared to the homecoming crowd, I thought this, especially given that it was a single elimination playoff game, just the crowd did not compare at all. And maybe part of that's because our section was a lot closer to the end, whereas in homecoming we were not in the middle exactly, but we were much closer to the center, and people
Mm,
were packed closer together just because it's a smaller venue. I think it's probably less than half the size, um, in terms of total capacity. But even in that disappointing loss to the Redwoods at Gillette at Harvard Stadium, I still felt the crowd was way, way more engaged and excited. And here, just nothing. And I know that the team didn't give a lot out there, but they were tied. I think what it was 2-0 chaos. Cannons tied at 2-2. Goal got taken away. They tied it 2-2 again. Then it was 3-2
yep.
and 3-3. And when it was tied, like there was some energy. It was certainly good. And then it just I felt like no one had anything. And part of that
Mhm.
is probably because it was a matinee game. We were all sitting in the sun. Um, I'm
Tired,
sure
hot.
there's a logistical reason like of where the cameras were that of why we had to sit on that side versus the other side that was in the shade. But um, yeah, I would have loved.
Also, I know that it was homecoming was 4th of July weekend, but especially for the Water Dogs game, it's July 6th at that point. So maybe people had come back from their week.
Mhm.
Oh, they went away for the week of the 4th, and so they had come back already. And today, not well, today, that day was actually Labor Day. So I think there probably were a lot of people that were traveling back from, their final summer vacation, or we're at, the backyard cookout because it's the actual holiday. If
Right.
the game was on Saturday of Labor Day weekend, maybe you do have a better turnout. I don't know. It's pure speculation, but I mean, what is that Nick Acello says that the PLL doesn't compete with baseball or other sports in the summer. They're competing with the beach.
Yeah.
And so when you have your playoff game on a big holiday like Labor Day, where people are known for going out and being away and just not being around for stuff, like it's definitely gonna impact your attendance numbers for sure.
Yeah. I think I guess we'll be dealing with this pretty much for as long as the PLL is like a weekend only league, which I think is probably the last thing to change about them, right? Is like players get
Yeah.
full-time salaries, they go to the home and away, and then you start getting more of like a hockey schedule if you go to, I don't know, 20 plus games in a year.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's probably like 20 years away at this point. Um,
Yeah.
so it's
Or the only other thing, again, it can be another off-season topic, but is shortening the season or just moving the season up.
yeah,
But
I know.
that's not a topic for
No,
tonight.
no, I think we'll talk about, yeah, we'll keep talking about this game. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the next point, maybe it's the final. I'm sure I'll find something else to complain about, but is some lineup changes, not in
Yeah.
terms of who was playing, but where they were playing. So we saw in the regular season finale, Matt Campbell and Chris Islanian play a little bit down at attack, and I think Pat Cav got down there as well. Um, this game, you know, Pat Cav said in an interview that he felt more comfortable coming out of the midfield. Excuse me. Um, and so he was at the midfield. Chris's line in was at attack all game. And I just don't like when we have one practice like the day before, 2 days before. Like obviously they were thinking about it, they were planning it, they were running through like schemes and whatever the whole 2 weeks. But when you only have one practice to actually do it, and then I guess you had two practices because they probably did some of it, the regular season finale. Um,
Hmm.
but it just seemed like Chris's line in is not as comfortable there. And, he's absolutely more effective in the midfield. Even if Pat Cav feels more comfortable in the midfield as well, he really, and is the way the Cannons lineup is structured now, he really belongs at attack. Um, and, if next year Will Manny does dress, or they want to try, his older brother Matt down there. That's
That's the
crazy that
thing
I brought up Will Manny before you.
well, before I mention Will Manny, I wish our king would have played. Actually, screw it. I'm going to talk about Will Manny first because I want to talk about Will Manny. Um, I I I know we weren't going to see him. I'm not surprised, and I fully understand it. So I hope that they re-sign him next year and give him a shot, especially if Pat does want to play midfield at the professional level. I would love to see Will Manny get some run week one early in the season next
Yeah,
year. Having said that, I know that, like, to the point about trying Chris Aslanian down at attack, if Pat really wanted to play out of the box and that is the plan, I know Matt didn't have his best season, but why would we not put Matt
yeah,
back in the lineup and leave the guys like Az and Campbell where they are at the midfield where we know that they're good? Because maybe Matt figures something out. I mean, he's clutch Kavanaugh. The
yeah,
playoffs would be his time to shine. And well, I know he's like 10 years older than Pat, so it's not like they grew up playing in the backyard together like Pat and Chris did. But there's still that brotherly connection there that I think that would have be something that would also just help spark the offenses having both calves out there.
Yeah.
together. So that is really my biggest question is if we're not going to play padded attack, why was Matt not the choice?
Yeah, I agree. I would have loved to have looked up his stats before this, but I absolutely like again,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like Holman asked like who do you take out of the lineup for that? I feel like um it is a tough conversation. I mean, I guess you take Islanian out of the lineup and put in Matt, which
Matt.
is tough because Islanian's been having a pretty productive year, but
Yeah.
um,
Well, actually that's just it just occurred to me. It's not anything groundbreaking or different, but just the way that I'm phrasing it is that, when we talked to Brian, he was saying that they didn't want to put Will Manny in because they don't want to try something new or whatever it was.
yeah.
But then you play Chris Aslanian as your
Mhm.
starting attackman. Like that that
Yeah.
feels pretty trying something new to me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, but
Yeah, I think and it's obviously it's easy to second guess when stuff goes really wrong like
right.
that, but
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
Monday
know.
morning quarterbacking is easy. We have the easiest
Yeah.
job. I did the no shade being thrown at you, Brian.
No.
Our job is far easier than yours.
Oh yeah. Um yeah, no, it's just two really, really painful losses. And I don't know. It's obviously we had that Champ Series win in February, which makes us a little bit easier. They're going back to Champ Series again.
Yep.
Um, hopefully they can at least do that back to back. I mean, I'm definitely worried about that Atlas roster, but at least they won't have Jeff Teague because they'll be playing in the NLL.
Pro. And oh no, the Outlaws aren't it. It's the Archers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then Dobson won't
we'll
be playing
see.
for the Rangers either. Which is great. Um, yeah, it's just stings. Um,
Yeah.
and it's never
It,
not going to. I mean, if they win next year, that obviously makes things a little bit easier. If they win in February, that makes things easier. But they're never gonna go back in time and win this game.
which
Yeah.
yeah. Wish they wish they could, wish they had, wish they would have. But
Yeah. I think we covered pretty much the most important lines from this game.
yep.
Rear I mean, yeah, Blaze just unbelievable. Let me check how old I think he's 30, which is younger than I'd like him to be. Um,
That sounds about right. I don't
yeah,
think he's 30 on the dot. He's either 31 or 29.
yeah, he's a little bit older than me. Let's find out. Yeah, he is 30. He graduated in 2016.
Oh, okay then.
Um,
We'll
maybe
just put a socket.
yeah, no idea when his birthday is, but so you got to figure he probably has a couple more years left at the very least.
Yeah.
'Cause I know, you know, it's very rare that guys in lacrosse have super long careers, but unless you're truly one of the elites like Rabel or Pinnell. I think Schreiber's
Yeah.
probably going to be in that category. But
Hmm.
Blazes, I mean, I have not watched all 20 years of the MLL for obvious reasons, but I gotta, he's for sure been the best goalie in the 6 years now of the PLL. And I don't
Yeah.
like the fact that Dylan Ward, the national team goalie for Team Canada, was his backup is insane. Um, so hopefully, hopefully he has a family and just has to spend more time with them and does not continue to haunt shooters in the PLL for
Uh,
years.
yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah,
It's
um,
Colin's turn.
absolutely.
It's Colin's turn to rule the league from the
Yeah,
goaltender position.
yeah, we hope so. I mean, yeah, you definitely you don't need to be you don't need to have any of the one individual best player at any of their position. Obviously, I think there's a case for Colin when you take him as the
Hmm.
whole package. I certainly think Campbell, if not the best attackman, is the best shooter. Um,
Midfielder.
oh, sorry, I meant to say Holman.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah,
But
Holman.
Campbell is.
Yeah,
arguably the best midfielder. So
yeah, for sure. He's at the very least one of the four
he's
best.
exactly.
Um, yeah, it's just a tough one. Actually, one more thing is I wanted to look up the face-off stats for this. Because we had James Riley come in for his second game with the Chaos.
Yeah,
And
Riley
last
performed
year,
better than I expected.
yeah, there were a couple violations. Um, Cannons did wind up winning the face-off battle 9-7.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I believe they did even win one when Tucci was off for a violation, which was
Hmm.
cool. Tucci officially went 8 for 15,
Hmm.
and Connor Kirst went 1 for 1.
There you go, Kirsty.
Yeah, but he does that in the NLL as well, which I like. Yeah, I did. Again, we don't need to take shots as easy to Monday morning quarterback, but obviously Tucci had that one amazing game against the Water Dogs. He had a couple clean wins where he runs down, and obviously that athleticism is great, and he just shot it straight at Faze Reardon, which when you're already down, like if he scores that, obviously we're not talking about this. It's a huge juice moment. Um, but I think all three of his goals in that Dogs game were bouncers. The two-pointer from 30 yards away or whatever was pretty exceptional,
Hmm.
but the two kind of standard Fogo goals where he just runs down the middle, scores on Ward, those were both high bouncers as well. It feels like, especially with someone as locked in as Blaze, that's kind of the way you got to go. And he definitely, like, I think one of them was like high to high stick side, and that just,
Yeah, I think yeah, the you got to do possession shots
yeah,
there.
or
Don't put it on cage. Just send it over the net.
right, or
Make it
pass
look like a
to,
shot, but
yeah.
send it over the net.
Yeah, that was, and maybe that's what he was going for. And I know those sticks get messed up the more draws you take.
True. Yeah,
So
it's easier said than done. Again,
yeah,
Monday morning
we don't,
quarterback.
yeah, we don't want to speak too ill of him. Um,
No,
because I also understand that impulse to
you want
try
to
to
score.
keep going. Yeah, it was above
And it
50%.
worked
Like,
for him in that Philly game, and that
yeah,
was early in the season. So I totally get that. If I did it before, I can do it again.
yeah. Um, and he absolutely can. Like I have no doubt,
Yeah,
assuming he's back next year, and I don't know why he wouldn't be, that we'll see him score again.
right.
Um, so yeah, I think that was the last thing that was irking me about that game, aside from everything else we've already mentioned. Um,
Yeah, I don't I think I'm all sort of I've gotten everything off my chest. I've been washed and
yeah.
cleansed. That game is now officially behind me.
Yep. And I guess we'll just briefly mention. So, as I think we maybe expected or feared, the Whips did beat the Outlaws in that second semifinal.
Yeah.
Which again, related to the crowd size, like that was so much smaller than that for the Cannons game.
Hmm.
Um, I think that was the ESPN window was the earlier slot, and they wanted to put the Cannons on that, which I get.
Yeah.
But to maximize the number of people who stayed in the stadium, probably should have put the Cannons second, so people would have showed up early, stayed for the second. Also, the weather for the Cannons game would have been a lot better because it was really quite cool once the sun
Yeah.
went down. So that was it was a bummer to see just because obviously we love the league, but we get it's a school night. That was a lot of people's first day of school, including my own because I
Yeah.
work in school. And so we get what do we get? We get the Chaos versus the Archers, and we get the
Yep.
Atlas versus the Whip Snakes.
Yep.
Um, since I guess we could do predictions even though the Cannons aren't in it. Um, I know we're not really rooting for any of the remaining teams. It's tough to have a second favorite in a league this small.
Yeah. I don't think I can't bring myself to root for any of them, so I don't
Yeah.
think I have anything. Um, do want to say just the last thing that we didn't talk about was the Green Beret Navy
Oh yeah.
SEAL game. That was really, really cool. I hope they do the Stars and Stripes Classic again. I know they're doing the fire department and police in New York this week. Really cool exhibitions that the PLL is putting
Yeah.
on. And we were trying to figure it out before we started recording Was it a Navy SEAL or a Green
It was
Beret
a seal.
that it was a SEAL that like his the back of his head touched his back. Like it was really
Yeah,
scary. So thoughts and prayers out to him. According to Reddit, it seems like he was discharged from the hospital and is going to be okay. I really hope the PLL will eventually give us some sort of information because that really was a truly
yeah,
terrifying
yeah,
moment, and I
yeah,
want to know that he is okay.
yeah. I think we're definitely like, I think it was an interesting thing, and we actually talked to Jake Zimmer, after that game that they were not allowed to use any of the names of the players, so they obviously weren't on the back of their jerseys, and then even on the broadcast, and there was no lineups released, because they are all active duty personnel, so the Department of Defense wouldn't let us find out who was playing in that game. I think
Interesting.
for some lacrosse fans, you might have noticed if you watched that game, someone on the SEAL team looked pretty familiar. I'm still, I don't know, not say it just because it's on air
We're
and
not
I want the
supposed to.
DoD to get mad at us. But um, yeah, it was very cool, and I think just because of that, we're very unlikely to know what happened to that guy. But yeah, just hope he's okay, and I think we can probably find that out. Hopefully, we're able to get that information, and
Yeah,
it's what we want to hear. That he walked out of the hospital. Um,
right.
yeah, because that was a scary moment, and otherwise, you know, pretty cool day. Results aside,
Yeah.
and I mean, you definitely could tell they weren't pros, but I think a lot of them had wound up playing in college in some capacity. And
And they were competitors.
oh yeah,
It was a good game.
and
It
there was
was
even a tussle at the end, like the Seals goalie, so the Seals won. Like just 2 seconds to go, chucks it full field. What you do, and the
uh,
Green Bay attackman just comes in and is like shoving him
pushing
and
him.
starts a little scrum. Um,
Yeah,
because
because it,
losing is
it,
not
it
something
means
they're used
something
to.
to them.
Yeah,
Yeah, doesn't matter.
no. So yeah, that was very cool. Would love to see that again. I think it's very cool that they're doing a yeah, fire department versus police department. We'll definitely tune into that, assuming I think it's on ESPN Plus as well. Um, yeah, that was very cool. And I don't know, is there a third thing they could do in Philly? I don't think they are, but at the very least,
Yeah,
I hope they bring these
I
two
don't
back.
know what they would do,
All
but
right. I think we covered it. Our goal was under half an hour. We're I think at 28 minutes now. So well done us. Um, yeah, Canada
there we
season
go.
over. I think we'll be back next week with a full season recap. Or maybe 2 weeks once the championship happens, and we can talk about
Yeah,
that. But we'll be back next week with something. Hopefully, we're gonna have a guest. Didn't quite work out with scheduling, but we'll try to get that to you next week, and we'll definitely have something for you. And so until then, go Cannons.
go Cannons.
Boom.
Boom.